Elena did not remember how long she had been walking. All she knew was that her feet were swollen inside torn slippers, and her stomach felt like a tight drum, heavy, painful, and full of a baby that kept kicking like it was also afraid. The rain poured down like bullets from the sky, turning the streets of Lagos into rivers of muddy water. Elena Morrison Chen collapsed on the wet concrete, her pregnant belly pressing against the cold ground. Blood mixed with rainwater beneath her, creating a dark puddle that spread slowly across the pavement. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. Her throat was too dry, her body too weak. She had been thrown out of the mansion 3 days ago with nothing but the clothes on her back, and she hadn't eaten since then. Now, as she lay dying on this forgotten street corner in Yaba, she wondered if anyone would even find her body before morning. Her baby kicked inside her belly, weak little movements that felt more like goodbye than hello. Elena pressed her hand against her stomach and whispered, "I'm sorry, little one. I tried. I really tried." Just as her eyes began to close for what she thought would be the last time, she heard footsteps splashing through the water toward her. A young voice cried out, "Auntie, Auntie, can you hear me?" Elena felt small hands touch her face, and then everything went black. But who was this mysterious person, and why would someone so young and poor risk everything to save a dying stranger? The answer to that question would change 3 lives forever. 3 months earlier, the sun was setting over Victoria Island when Marcus Chen first saw Eleanor sitting on the steps of the Civic Centre. She wasn't begging like the other homeless people around her. Instead, she sat with her back straight, reading a tattered book that looked like it had been rescued from a dumpster. Marcus had just finished a meeting with international investors and was walking to his car when something made him stop. Maybe it was the way the evening light caught her face, or maybe it was the dignity she carried despite her torn clothes and dirty appearance. Whatever it was, Marcus found himself walking toward her. "What are you reading?" he asked. Eleanor looked up, surprised. Most people ignored her or threw money at her without making eye contact. But this man, tall, dressed in an expensive suit, and clearly wealthy, was actually asking her a question like she was a real person. "It's about business management," she said quietly. "I found it in the trash behind a bookstore." Marcus smiled. "That's one of my favorite books. The author really understands how to build a company from nothing." They talked for almost an hour. Marcus learned that Elena had been homeless for 2 years, ever since her father died, and she lost everything. She didn't tell him the full story, not yet. She didn't mention that her father had been Richard Morrison, the founder of Morrison Global Industries, or that the company had been stolen from her through lies and fake legal documents. Eleanor just knew that this kind stranger with gentle eyes was the first person in 2 years who had treated her like a human being. Marcus visited her every day after that. He brought her food, books, and eventually he brought her something more valuable: hope. After 3 weeks, he asked her to dinner at a real restaurant. After 2 months, he asked her to marry him. "I know this is crazy," Marcus said, kneeling on the same steps where they first met. "I know people will say I'm moving too fast, or that I don't know you well enough. But Elena, I've never been more sure of anything in my life. You're intelligent, strong, and beautiful. I want to spend every day learning more about you. Will you marry me?" Eleanor cried as she said yes. For the first time since her father died, she felt like maybe life could be good again. But Marcus had no idea what kind of storm was waiting for them at home. The Chen family mansion in Ikoyi was like a palace. Crystal chandeliers hung from every ceiling, marble floors reflected the light like mirrors, and servants in crisp uniforms moved silently through the halls. Marcus's mother, Victoria Chen, sat in the main living room when Marcus brought Eleanor home for the first time. The older woman's face was like stone as she looked at Eleanor's simple dress and nervous smile. "This is the woman you want to marry?" Victoria asked coldly. "A homeless girl from the streets?" "Mother, please," Marcus said. "Give Elena a chance. She's wonderful once you get to know her." "She's a gold digger," Victoria snapped. "Can't you see? She's using you for your money." Elena stepped forward, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. "Mrs. Chen, I understand why you might think that. But I love your son for who he is, not what he has. I would be with him, even if he had nothing." Victoria laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the room. How convenient that you say that, while standing in my mansion, wearing the clothes my son bought you, and preparing to marry into one of the richest families in Nigeria. Marcus's two siblings, David and Grace, stood behind their mother, smirking. They had already decided they hated Elena before even meeting her. How dare their brother marry some nobody from the streets when he could have married the daughter of the Minister of Finance or the niece of the governor? The wedding happened anyway. It was small and quiet, held at the civil registry with just a few friends. Marcus's family refused to attend. On her wedding day, Elena should have been the happiest woman in the world. Instead, she felt the weight of the hatred waiting for her at home. The first month of marriage was difficult, but Marcus's love made it bearable. He defended Elena against his family's cruel words and protected her from their schemes. When Elena discovered she was pregnant, Marcus was so happy he cried. "We're having a baby," he whispered, holding her close, "our own little family." But his mother and siblings saw the pregnancy differently. Now Elena wasn't just an embarrassment, she was going to have a child who would share in the Chen family fortune. They couldn't let that happen. 2 months into the pregnancy, Marcus received an urgent call from his boss. "We need you in Canada immediately," the CEO said. "There's a problem with the merger, and you're the only one who can fix it. It will take about 2 weeks. Marcus didn't want to go. He didn't trust his family alone with Elena. But the trip was too important to refuse. His entire career depended on it. "I'll be fine," Elena assured him, though she felt scared. "It's only 2 weeks. What could possibly happen?" Marcus kissed her forehead and whispered, "I'll call you every day. And if anything at all, feels wrong, you call me immediately. Promise?" "I promise," Elena said. She watched from the window as Marcus's car disappeared down the long driveway. She didn't know that her husband's mother was watching from another window, a cold smile spreading across her face. The moment Marcus's plane took off, Victoria Chen walked into Eleanor's room without knocking. "Your vacation is over, street girl," she said. "Starting tomorrow, you will earn your place in this house. No more servants bringing you food. No more lazy days reading books. You will work, and you will remember your place." Eleanor felt her baby flutter inside her belly as fear gripped her heart. "What do you mean?" Victoria leaned close, her breath hot on Elena's face. "I mean that for the next 2 weeks you belong to me, and by the time my son returns, you'll be gone. One way or another." Elena's hands instinctively covered her pregnant belly as Victoria turned and walked away, her laughter echoing down the hallway like a death sentence. The next morning started before the sun came up. Eleanor was still in bed, her body exhausted from carrying the baby, when her bedroom door burst open with a loud bang. "Get up!" Grace, Marcus's younger sister, shouted. "The kitchen floor needs scrubbing. Mother wants it done before breakfast." Eleanor sat up slowly, confused. "What?" "Grace, I don't understand. Are you deaf?" Grace walked over and yanked the blanket off the bed. "I said get up and clean the kitchen. Or did you think you could just lie around like a queen while the rest of us work?" "But the housekeepers usually clean the kitchen," Eleanor said, her voice shaking. "Marcus told me I should rest because of the baby." Grace's face twisted with disgust. "Marcus isn't here, and that baby you're carrying doesn't make you special. Now move, or I'll tell Mother you refuse to help, and things will get much worse for you." Eleanor's hands trembled as she got out of bed. She was 3 months pregnant, and every morning she felt sick and dizzy. But the look in Grace's eyes told her that refusing wasn't an option. The kitchen was huge, almost as big as the entire building where Elena used to live on the streets. Grace handed her a bucket of soapy water and a scrub brush, then pointed at the marble floor. "On your hands and knees," Grace commanded. "I want to see that floor shine." For 2 hours, Eleanor scrubbed. Her back ached, her knees burned against the hard floor, and her stomach cramped with hunger. When she finally finished, Grace walked through the kitchen in her shoes, deliberately stepping in the wet spots and leaving dirty footprints everywhere. "Oh, look at that," Grace said with fake surprise. "You missed some spots. Better start over." Eleanor wanted to cry, but she refused to give Grace the satisfaction. She picked up the brush and started scrubbing again. This became Eleanor's new life. Every day, Victoria and her children found new ways to torture her. They made her wash all the bathrooms, clean the windows, and do the laundry for the entire household, even though there were 6 housekeepers who were paid to do these jobs. The housekeepers watched with sad eyes but said nothing. They needed their jobs, and speaking up against the Chen family would mean losing everything. By the 3rd day, Eleanor was so exhausted she could barely stand. She hadn't been allowed to eat a full meal since Marcus left. Victoria made sure the kitchen staff only gave Eleanor small portions of food, usually just rice and a tiny piece of fish, sometimes not even that. "We can't waste good food on someone who doesn't contribute to this family," Victoria said whenever Eleanor asked for more. At night, Eleanor would lock herself in her bedroom and call Marcus, but she couldn't tell him the truth. Every time she tried, she remembered what Victoria had whispered to her. "If you tell Marcus anything, I'll make sure you disappear before he comes back. And trust me, no one will ever find your body." So instead, Elena lied. "Everything is fine," she would tell Marcus on the phone, forcing her voice to sound happy. "I'm resting and taking care of myself. Don't worry about me." But Marcus knew his wife. He could hear something wrong in her voice, even if he couldn't figure out what it was. "Elena, are you sure?" he would ask. "You sound tired." "Just pregnancy tiredness," she would lie. "The baby keeps me up at night with all the kicking." After each call, Elena would cry into her pillow, praying that the 2 weeks would pass quickly. By the end of the 1st week, Elena's body was breaking down. She had lost weight despite being pregnant. Her hands were covered in cuts and bruises from the harsh cleaning chemicals, and she could barely walk without pain shooting through her legs. David, Marcus's older brother, noticed her weakness and decided to make things worse. "Mother," he said one evening at dinner while Eleanor served them food like a maid, "I think Eleanor is faking her tiredness to get out of work. Maybe she needs more challenging tasks to keep her motivated." Victoria smiled. "You're absolutely right, David. Elena, tomorrow you'll wash all the curtains in the house, by hand. I want them dried and rehung before sunset." Elena felt the room spin. There were at least 30 windows in the mansion, each with heavy velvet curtains. Washing them all by hand would take days, not hours. "Mrs. Chen, please," Eleanor begged. "I'm trying my best, but I'm pregnant. The doctor said I need to avoid heavy lifting and stress." "The doctor," Victoria interrupted with a laugh, "doesn't live in this house, I do, and in my house everyone earns their keep. Unless you'd prefer to leave?" The threat was clear. If Eleanor left, she would have nowhere to go, no money, and no way to survive. She was trapped. "I'll do it," Eleanor whispered. That night, Eleanor barely slept. Her body hurt so much that every position in bed felt like lying on broken glass. The baby had stopped kicking as much, and that scared her more than anything. She pressed her hands against her belly, whispering, "Please, little one. Please hold on. Just one more week. Your father will be home in one more week, and everything will be okay." But Elena was wrong. Things were about to get much, much worse. On the 9th day of Marcus's absence, Eleanor collapsed while carrying a heavy basket of wet laundry up the stairs. She fell backward, tumbling down 6 steps before landing hard on her side. Pain exploded through her body. She screamed, clutching her stomach, terrified that something had happened to the baby. 2 housekeepers ran to help her, but Grace pushed them away. "Leave her," Grace commanded. "She's fine, just being dramatic." But Eleanor wasn't fine. Blood had started seeping through her dress. Not much, but enough to be terrifying. "Please," Elena sobbed. "Something's wrong with the baby. Please, I need to go to the hospital." Grace leaned down, her face close to Elena's. "You're not going anywhere. If you make a scene, Mother will throw you out right now. Is that what you want? To be homeless and pregnant on the streets again?" Elena shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "Then get up and finish your work," Grace said coldly. Somehow Eleanor managed to stand. She finished hanging the laundry, each movement sending waves of pain through her body. That night, she locked herself in her room and cried until she had no tears left. She wanted to call Marcus and beg him to come home early. But Victoria had taken her phone that morning, claiming Eleanor was wasting time talking instead of working. Eleanor was completely alone, completely trapped, and completely terrified. On the 11th day, Victoria called a family meeting. Eleanor wasn't invited, but she could hear them talking in the living room as she cleaned the hallway outside. Marcus comes back in 3 days, Victoria said. We need to get rid of her before then. What do you mean, Mother? David asked. I mean exactly what I said. That girl cannot be here when my son returns. We'll tell Marcus she ran away. We'll say she couldn't handle being part of our family and left in the middle of the night. But what if she tells him the truth? Grace asked. Victoria laughed. Who will believe her? A homeless girl with no family, no friends, and no proof of anything. Against us, one of the most respected families in Lagos. Please, even if she tries to tell him, Marcus will think she's lying to cover up the fact that she abandoned him. Eleanor's blood ran cold as she listened. They were planning to throw her out. And once she was gone, she would have no way to reach Marcus, no way to prove what they had done to her. Her hand went to her belly, where her baby lay quiet and still, too still. We'll do it tomorrow night, Victoria decided. We'll wait until she's asleep. Then David and the security guards will take her far from here and leave her somewhere she'll never find her way back from. Eleanor backed away from the door slowly, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. She had one day. One day to figure out how to survive. That night, Eleanor tried to escape. She waited until everyone was asleep, then crept down the stairs toward the front door, but the security guards were waiting. Going somewhere, madam? One of them asked with a cruel smile. They grabbed her arms and dragged her back upstairs, throwing her into her bedroom and locking the door from the outside. Eleanor pounded on the door until her fists were bruised. Please, she screamed, please let me out. I need help. My baby. No one came. She slid down to the floor, pressing her back against the locked door, and finally accepted the truth. She was going to die, and her baby was going to die with her. Unless a miracle happened in the next 24 hours, Marcus would return from Canada to find his wife and child simply gone. The 12th day dawned grey and heavy, as if even the sky knew something terrible was about to happen. Eleanor woke up on the floor of her bedroom, still pressed against the locked door. Her body ached everywhere, and when she touched her stomach, the baby didn't kick back like usual. Please, she whispered to her unborn child, please just hold on a little longer. Daddy will be home soon, just hold on. But Eleanor knew the truth. Marcus wouldn't be home for 2 more days, and according to what she'd overheard, she wouldn't survive tonight. Around noon, the lock on her door clicked open. Grace stood in the doorway with a small plate of rice and a glass of water. Eat, Grace said, shoving the plate at Elena. Mother wants you to have strength for tonight. Strength for what? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. Grace smiled, a cold, terrible smile. You'll see. Elena forced herself to eat the rice, even though every bite felt like swallowing sand. She needed whatever strength she could get. If they were going to throw her out tonight, she would have to survive on the streets again, this time while pregnant and injured. The afternoon passed slowly. Eleanor sat by her bedroom window, watching the sun move across the sky like a clock counting down to her doom. She thought about Marcus and wondered what he was doing in Canada. Was he in a meeting? Was he thinking about her? Did he have any idea that his family was planning to destroy everything he loved? She placed both hands on her belly. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you, she whispered to her baby. I tried. I really tried. Night fell like a curtain dropping on a stage. Elena heard footsteps in the hallway outside her room. Heavy footsteps that belonged to men, not women. The door opened and David stood there with 2 large security guards behind him. Time to go, David said simply. Eleanor's heart raced. Where are you taking me? Does it matter? David shrugged. You won't be coming back. The security guards grabbed Eleanor's arms, lifting her roughly to her feet. She tried to struggle, but she was too weak, too exhausted from nearly 2 weeks of torture. They dragged her down the back stairs, the ones the servants used, so the housekeepers wouldn't see. Victoria and Grace waited by the back door, watching with satisfied expressions. This is for the best, Victoria said, though she didn't sound like she believed it. She sounded like someone trying to convince herself that what she was doing wasn't evil. You were never right for this family. Marcus will understand eventually. Please, Eleanor begged one last time, please don't do this. I'm pregnant. Your grandchild. That thing inside you is not my grandchild, Victoria said coldly. My grandchildren will come from a proper wife, not a street beggar. Eleanor felt something break inside her chest, not her heart, but something deeper. Hope, maybe. Or faith in humanity. Whatever it was, it shattered like glass. The security guards shoved her into the back of an old van. It wasn't one of the family's nice cars. It was a rusty vehicle that looked like it should have been thrown away years ago. "Where are you taking me?" Eleanor asked the guards, but they didn't answer. They drove for what felt like hours. Eleanor watched through the dirty windows as the nice neighborhoods of Ikoyi and Victoria Island disappeared, replaced by industrial areas, then poorer neighborhoods, and finally streets she didn't recognize at all. When the van finally stopped, they were in Yaba, one of the most crowded, chaotic parts of Lagos. It was past midnight, and the streets were mostly empty except for a few homeless people sleeping in doorways and some young men standing on corners, smoking and talking in low voices. The security guards opened the back door and pulled Eleanor out. She stumbled, barely catching herself before falling. "Wait," she said, "you can't just leave me here. I don't know where I am. I don't have any money or—" One of the guards shoved her hard. Eleanor fell backward, landing on the wet street. Pain shot through her hip and belly. "Stay away from the Chen family," the guard warned. "If you try to contact Mr. Marcus or come back to the house, things will get worse for you, much worse. Understand?" Before Eleanor could answer, the van door slammed shut and the vehicle sped away, leaving her alone in the dark. Elena tried to stand, but her body wouldn't cooperate. Everything hurt. She managed to crawl to the side of the road, pressing her back against a closed shop's metal shutter. Rain started to fall, first just a few drops, then a heavy downpour that soaked through her thin dress in seconds. "Help," Eleanor tried to call out, but her voice was too weak. "Someone please help me." But no one came. The few people on the street hurried past, not wanting to get involved. In Lagos, you learned not to interfere in other people's problems. It was safer that way. Elena's vision started to blur. She could feel herself getting weaker, feel consciousness slipping away. The baby inside her had stopped moving completely hours ago, and Elena knew, she just knew, that something was terribly wrong. "I'm sorry, Marcus," she whispered into the rain. "I'm so sorry I couldn't be stronger. I love you. I love you so much." Her eyes closed, and she felt herself falling sideways onto the wet pavement. This was it. This was how her story ended, alone, in the rain, with no one to remember her or care that she'd ever existed. But Elena was wrong. Someone did care. Lily Okonkwo was 19 years old and had been alone in the world for 7 years. Her mother had died when Lily was 12, and the neighbors in their village had called Lily a witch child, saying she had killed her mother with evil powers. They would have killed Lily too, if not for a stranger, a young businessman who happened to be passing through their village. He had stopped the mob, paid for Lily's mother's funeral, and given Lily enough money to start a new life far away from people who wanted her dead. Lily never forgot that man's face or his name, Marcus Chen. She never got to thank him properly. He left the village the same day, and Lily never saw him again. But she promised herself that one day, somehow, she would pay back his kindness. For 7 years, Lily survived in Lagos by doing odd jobs, washing clothes, cleaning houses, selling water in traffic. She lived in a tiny room that was barely big enough for a mattress, but it was hers, and she had worked hard for it. Tonight, Lily was walking home from her job at a restaurant where she washed dishes. It was past midnight, and she was exhausted. The rain poured down, but she didn't have money for a taxi or even an Okada motorcycle, so she walked. That's when she saw the woman lying in the street. At first, Lily thought it was just another homeless person. Lagos was full of them, but something made her stop and look closer. The woman was pregnant, very pregnant, and she wasn't moving. "Auntie," Lily called out, running over despite the rain. "Auntie, can you hear me?" She knelt down and touched the woman's face. Her skin was cold and pale. Lily checked for a pulse. It was there, but very weak. "Oh God," Lily whispered, "please don't die, please." Lily looked around desperately for help, but the street was empty. Even if someone was nearby, she knew they wouldn't help. This was Lagos. People minded their own business, which meant it was up to Lily alone. She was a small girl, barely 5 feet tall and skinny from not eating enough. But desperation gave her strength she didn't know she had. Lily hooked her arms under the pregnant woman's shoulders and started dragging her down the street. "Just hold on," Lily said, though she didn't know if the woman could hear her. "My room is only 3 streets away. Just hold on." It took Lily 20 minutes to drag the unconscious woman those 3 streets. Her arms felt like they would fall off. Her back screamed in pain, but she didn't stop. Finally, she reached the old building where she rented her small room on the 2nd floor. There was no elevator, of course. Lily had to drag the woman up the stairs 1 step at a time, praying the whole time that someone would help her. No one did. By the time Lily got the woman inside her tiny room and onto her mattress, Lily collapsed on the floor, unable to move. She lay there gasping for breath, her entire body shaking from exhaustion. But she couldn't rest. The woman needed help, real medical help that Lily couldn't afford to give. Lily forced herself to stand. She grabbed the small bucket she used for bathing and filled it with water from the shared tap in the hallway. She found her only clean cloth and began washing the woman's face and hands, trying to warm her up. The woman's eyes fluttered open. "Where?" Eleanor whispered. "Where am I?" "You're safe," Lily said gently. "You're in my room. I found you on the street. You were almost dead." Eleanor's hand immediately went to her belly. "My baby. Is my baby?" "I don't know," Lily said honestly. "We need to get you to a hospital, but I don't have money for—" "No hospital," Eleanor said, panic filling her voice. "They'll find me. They'll kill me." "Who will kill you?" Lily asked. But before Eleanor could answer, her face twisted in pain. She screamed, clutching her stomach. Blood appeared on the mattress beneath her. Lily's heart stopped. She had never dealt with a pregnant woman before. She had no idea what to do. "Please," Elena sobbed, "something's wrong. Something's really wrong with my baby." Lily ran to bang on her neighbor's door, an old woman named Mama Ngozi, who had lived in the building for 20 years. Mama Ngozi, please, I need help." The old woman opened her door, angry at being woken up. But when she saw the blood on Lily's hands and clothes, her expression changed to concern. "What happened?" "There's a pregnant woman in my room," Lily said quickly. "She's bleeding. I think the baby is coming." Mama Ngozi grabbed her wrapper and followed Lily back to the room. The moment she saw Eleanor, she shook her head. "This woman needs a hospital," Mama Ngozi said. "She's in trouble. The baby is in trouble." "She said no hospitals," Lily explained. "She said someone is trying to kill her." Mama Ngozi looked at Lily with wise, tired eyes. "Then we do what we can and pray it's enough. Go boil water. Find clean cloths. And child," she grabbed Lily's arm, "pray harder than you've ever prayed in your life, because if this woman and her baby survive tonight, it will be a miracle." Lily ran to follow the old woman's instructions, her mind racing with one thought. Who was this woman? And who wanted her dead badly enough to throw her out on the street to die? She was about to find out that this dying woman in her room was connected to her in ways she never could have imagined. For 3 days and 3 nights, Elena fought for her life on Lily's thin mattress. Mama Ngozi came and went, bringing herbs and medicines she'd learned about from her grandmother, while Lily never left Elena's side. The baby didn't come, which Mama Ngozi said was both good and bad. Good, because it meant the baby was still holding on. Bad, because Eleanor's body was so weak that if labor started now, neither mother nor child would survive. "She needs real food," Mama Ngozi told Lily on the 2nd day. "Protein, vegetables, not just Gary and ground nuts." But Lily had already spent all her money for the month. She had 17 naira left, not even enough to buy 1 egg. "I'll figure something out," Lily promised. That afternoon, Lily went to the restaurant where she worked and begged her boss for an advance on her salary. "Please, sir," she said, "just 2,000 naira. I'll work extra hours. I'll do anything." Her boss, a fat man named Mr. Benson, who always smelled like palm wine, laughed at her. "You want me to give you money for some pregnant stranger you picked up from the street? Do I look like a charity organization? Please, sir, she's dying. Her baby is dying." "Not my problem," Mr. Benson said, turning back to his accounting book. "Now get back to work, before I dock your pay for wasting time." Lily went back to washing dishes with tears running down her face. But she didn't give up. During her break, she went to the market and explained her situation to the women who sold vegetables there. Most of them ignored her or chased her away. But one woman, an old trader named Mama Chidi, listened to the whole story, then filled a small bag with tomatoes, peppers, and onions. "Take it," Mama Chidi said when Lily tried to pay with her last 17 naira. "Keep your money. Any girl who would risk everything to save a stranger deserves help." Lily cried and thanked her over and over. With the vegetables and a small piece of fish she bought with her 17 naira, she made a proper soup that night. She fed Elena spoonful by spoonful, watching as color slowly returned to the sick woman's face. "Thank you," Elena whispered. "Why are you doing this for me? You don't even know me." Lily smiled. "Someone once helped me when I had nothing, and everyone wanted me dead. I'm just paying that kindness forward." "What happened to you?" Elena asked. So Lily told her story about her mother's death, about being called a witch child, about the mob that wanted to kill her, and about the stranger who saved her life. "His name was Marcus Chen," Lily said. "I never forgot him. He gave me enough money to start over, to come to Lagos and build a new life. I always hoped I'd see him again someday, just to say thank you." Eleanor's eyes went wide. Her hand gripped Lily's arm. "What did you say? Marcus Chen?" "Yes, that was his name. Do you know him?" Eleanor started crying, not sad tears but tears of shock and wonder. "Marcus Chen is my husband. The man you're describing, the man who saved you. That's my husband." Now it was Lily's turn to be shocked. She stared at Elena, trying to process what she'd just heard. "Your husband? But, but that means... It means you saved the wife of the man who saved you," Elena finished. It means this was meant to happen. You were meant to find me." Both women sat in silence, overwhelmed by the impossible coincidence. Or was it fate? "Tell me everything," Lily finally said. "Tell me how you ended up dying on that street." So Eleanor told her story. She told Lily about meeting Marcus, about the marriage, about his horrible family, and about the 2 weeks of torture that ended with her being thrown out to die. "They said if I ever tried to contact Marcus, they would make things worse," Eleanor said. "They took my phone. They made sure I had no way to reach him. And he comes back tomorrow. Tomorrow he'll return from Canada and think I abandoned him." "Then we have to tell him the truth," Lily said firmly. "But how? I don't even know where he is in Canada. I don't have his number memorized. Everything was in my phone, and they took it." Lily thought hard. "What about his office? The company where he works?" Eleanor's face lit up with hope, then fell again. "Morrison Global Industries. But I can't just walk into that building looking like this. Security won't even let me through the gate." "Morrison Global Industries," Lily repeated. "That big glass building in Victoria Island. I know where that is. I used to sell water in the traffic near there." "It doesn't matter," Eleanor said sadly. "Even if we could get in, they wouldn't believe us. Marcus's family is probably already telling everyone that I ran away." But Lily wasn't giving up. "When does Marcus return?" "His flight lands tomorrow at 3 p.m., Elena said. "He'll probably go straight home to look for me." "Then we go to his house," Lily declared. "We'll wait outside if we have to. But you will see your husband, and you will tell him the truth." Eleanor shook her head. "You don't understand. The Chen mansion has security guards everywhere. They have orders to keep me away. If they see me coming, they'll—" "They'll what?" Lily interrupted. "Kill you. You were already dying when I found you. What's the worst they can do that hasn't already been done?" Eleanor looked at this brave young girl who had given up everything to save a stranger, and she felt something she hadn't felt in 2 weeks. Courage. "You're right," Elena said. "I have to fight. For my baby. For Marcus. For the truth." "Then we fight tomorrow," Lily said. "But tonight you rest and eat and get your strength back. Because tomorrow we're going to war." Meanwhile, in Canada, Marcus Chen sat in his hotel room, staring at his phone. He had tried calling Eleanor 15 times that day, and every call went straight to voicemail. Something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones. For the past 2 weeks, every conversation with Elena had felt strange. Her voice sounded tired, too tired. And there was something else, something he couldn't quite identify. Fear, maybe. He had asked her repeatedly if everything was okay, if his family was treating her well. She always said yes, but Marcus had lived with his mother and siblings his entire life. He knew what they were capable of. I should never have left her alone with them, Marcus muttered to himself. His business partner James knocked on the door. Marcus, the final meeting is in an hour. Are you ready? James, Marcus said, standing up. I need to go home. Now. What? Marcus, we're so close to closing this deal. Just one more meeting. I don't care about the deal, Marcus interrupted. Something's wrong with Elena. I can feel it. Every instinct I have is screaming that she's in danger. James sighed. Marcus, I understand you're worried about your wife, but if you leave now, we lose everything we've worked for these 2 weeks. Can it wait just 6 more hours? Marcus wanted to say no. He wanted to run straight to the airport and get on the next flight home. But James was right. This deal was worth millions of dollars. The CEO had trusted him with this responsibility. If he failed now, it could destroy his career. 6 hours, Marcus agreed reluctantly. But the moment that meeting ends, I'm going to the airport. I don't care if I have to take a private jet. I'm going home to my wife. He finished the meeting in record time, barely listening to the clients as they discussed terms and conditions. His mind was thousands of miles away, with Eleanor praying she was safe. The moment the contracts were signed, Marcus grabbed his bags and ran out of the hotel. He made it to the airport and bought a ticket on the next flight to Lagos, a flight that left at midnight and would arrive at 3 p.m. the next day. As the plane took off, Marcus stared out the window and whispered, "Hold on, Elena. I'm coming home. Whatever they did to you, whatever happened, I'm coming to fix it. Just hold on." Elena woke up feeling stronger than she had in weeks. The food, rest, and Lily's care had worked as a small miracle. She could stand without feeling dizzy. The baby had even kicked a few times during the night, which made her cry with relief. "Are you ready?" Lily asked, helping Eleanor put on a clean dress that Mama Ngozi had donated. "As ready as I'll ever be," Elena said. They left the small room at 10 a.m. It would take at least 2 hours to get from Yaba to Ikoyi using public transportation, and they wanted to arrive before Marcus did. The journey was hard. They took 3 different buses, and on each one, people stared at Elena's pregnant belly and whispered. In Lagos, a visibly pregnant woman traveling with no husband or family was automatically judged. But Eleanor kept her head high. She had survived 2 weeks of torture and 3 days of nearly dying. She could survive some judgmental looks. They arrived at the Chen mansion at 1 p.m. The house looked even more intimidating than Elena remembered. A giant fortress designed to keep unwanted people out. And right now, Elena was definitely unwanted. "How do we get in?" Lily asked, staring at the high walls and locked gate. "We wait," Eleanor said. "When Marcus arrives, we'll tell the security guards to let us in. He'll vouch for us." They sat down on the sidewalk across the street from the gate, waiting. People walked past, staring at them curiously. A few cars drove by slowly, their drivers wondering why 2 women were sitting outside the famous Chen mansion. An hour passed, then another. At 3:30 p.m., a black Mercedes pulled up to the gate. Elena's heart leaped. That was Marcus's car, the one he always used. She jumped to her feet, ignoring the pain in her body. "Marcus!" she shouted. "Marcus, I'm here!" But the car didn't stop. The gate opened automatically, and the Mercedes drove through. "Wait!" Eleanor ran toward the gate, but the security guards stepped in front of her. "Move back," one of them ordered. "Please, you don't understand. My husband is in that car. I need to see him." "Your husband?" The guard laughed. "Lady, Mr. Marcus Chen's wife ran away 2 weeks ago. Everyone knows that. Now move along before we call the police." "I didn't run away. His family threw me out. They tried to kill me." The second guard pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the police. You have 10 seconds to leave before I have you arrested for trespassing and harassment." Lily grabbed Eleanor's arm. "Come on, we'll find another way." But Eleanor couldn't give up, not when Marcus was so close. She could see the front door of the mansion opening. She could see someone stepping out. "Marcus!" she screamed with everything she had. "Marcus, please, it's me. It's Elena." And then, like a miracle, the person at the door turned around. It was Marcus. Even from across the courtyard, Eleanor could see his face change from confusion to shock to overwhelming relief. "Eleanor!" he shouted. "Elena!" He ran. He ran faster than Elena had ever seen anyone run, straight through the courtyard, past his shocked mother and siblings who had come out to see what the commotion was about, straight to the gate. "Open this gate right now," Marcus commanded the guards. "But sir, your mother said—" "I don't care what my mother said. Open the gate now." The guards scrambled to unlock the gate. The moment it swung open, Marcus pulled Eleanor into his arms. She collapsed against him, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. "They tried to kill me," she gasped out. "Your family, they threw me out. I almost died." Marcus held her tighter, his own tears falling onto her hair. I know, my love. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I left you alone with them." He turned to look at his mother and siblings, who stood frozen on the front steps. The expression on Marcus's face was terrible, a mixture of rage and disgust that made even his mother take a step back. "What did you do to my wife?" Marcus asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Victoria lifted her chin, trying to maintain her dignity. "Marcus, darling, you don't understand. That girl—" "What did you do to my wife?" Marcus roared, his voice echoing off the walls. And that's when Victoria Chen realized that she had made a terrible mistake. Her son wasn't the obedient boy she had raised. He was a man who loved his wife more than he loved his family, more than he loved his inheritance, more than he loved anything in the world. And he was about to make them all pay for what they had done. Marcus carried Elena into the mansion, ignoring his mother's protests and his siblings' shocked faces. Lily followed closely behind, amazed by how quickly everything had changed. "Call Dr. Adebayo," Marcus commanded one of the housekeepers. "Tell him to come immediately. My wife needs medical attention." "Marcus, really?" Victoria tried again. "You're overreacting. The girl just—" Marcus whirled around, his eyes blazing. "Mother, if you say one more word, just one more word, I will forget you raised me. Sit down and be quiet until I'm ready to deal with you." Victoria had never heard her son speak to her like that. She sat down on the couch, her face pale. Marcus gently laid Eleanor on the sofa in the living room, kneeling beside her and holding her hand. "You're safe now," he whispered. "I promise you're safe. No one will ever hurt you again." The doctor arrived within 20 minutes. He examined Eleanor thoroughly while Marcus paced the room like a caged lion. Lily sat quietly in the corner, still trying to process everything that was happening. Finally, Dr. Adebayo finished his examination. His face was grave. "Mr. Chen," the doctor said, "your wife is severely malnourished and dehydrated. She has bruises and cuts consistent with physical labor and abuse. She's also showing signs of extreme stress, which is very dangerous for a pregnant woman." Marcus's hands clenched into fists. "And the baby?" "The baby's heartbeat is weak but present. However, if your wife had gone another day or two without proper care—" The doctor shook his head. "It's a miracle she survived at all. Someone must have been taking very good care of her recently." Marcus turned to look at Lily, who had been so quiet he'd almost forgotten she was there. "You saved her, didn't you? You're the one who found her." Lily nodded shyly. "Yes, sir. I found her on the street in Yaba 3 days ago." Marcus walked over and knelt in front of the young girl. "What's your name?" "Lily, sir. Lily Okonkwo." Marcus froze. "Okonkwo? From Enugu State?" "Yes, sir. How did you—" "Your mother's name was Grace. She died 7 years ago, and the villagers called you a witch child." Marcus's voice shook with emotion. "I gave you money to start a new life. I never thought I'd see you again." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "You remember me?" "How could I forget?" Marcus said. "You were just a little girl, so scared and alone. I wished I could have done more for you." "You did enough," Lily said, wiping her tears. "You saved my life, and now I got to save yours by saving your wife." Marcus pulled Lily into a gentle hug. "You didn't just save my wife, you saved my child, you saved my entire future. I owe you everything." Eleanor, watching from the sofa, felt her heart swell with love. This was the man she had married, the man who remembered a child he'd helped 7 years ago, the man whose kindness had created a circle that had saved them all. Dr. Adebayo cleared his throat. Mr. Chen, I need to admit your wife to the hospital for at least 3 days. She needs IV fluids, proper nutrition, and monitoring for the baby. Of course, Marcus said immediately. Use the best private room. Money is no object. Marcus, Victoria spoke up from her seat, trying to sound reasonable. Don't you think we should discuss what happened first? There are two sides to every— Two sides? Marcus interrupted, his voice cold as ice. Mother, my wife is sitting here, malnourished, bruised, and traumatized. My unborn child almost died. What possible other side could justify this? David stepped forward, trying to defend their mother. Marcus, you have to understand. We were only thinking of the family's reputation. She came from nothing. She came from nothing? Marcus laughed bitterly. Let me tell you something about my wife, something I discovered 3 days ago in Canada. He pulled out his phone and brought up a document. I was at the Morrison Global Industries headquarters in Toronto, meeting with the board of directors. During a break, I was looking at old photos of the company founder, Richard Morrison, and I saw this. He held up his phone, showing a photo of a much younger Richard Morrison standing with a little girl. A girl who looked exactly like Eleanor. That's my wife, Marcus said. Eleanor Morrison, daughter of Richard Morrison, the man who founded the very company I work for. After her father died 12 years ago, his business partners conspired to steal everything from her. They spread lies, forged documents, and left her with nothing. They made her homeless, hoping she would disappear and never claim her inheritance. The room fell silent. Even Victoria looked shocked. So when you say my wife came from nothing, Marcus continued, you're wrong. My wife is the rightful owner of a multi-billion naira corporation. She's the heir to one of the largest fortunes in Nigeria. She didn't marry me for money. She had more money than all of us combined. She just didn't know it yet. Grace gasped. That's impossible. If she was Richard Morrison's daughter, someone would have known. Someone did know, Marcus said. The people who stole from her knew, and they've been hiding the truth for 12 years. But I found proof, birth certificates, DNA tests that Richard had done before he died, even a will that names Elena as his sole heir. Everything was buried in sealed legal files that were supposed to remain hidden forever. He looked at his family with disgust. You tortured and tried to kill a woman who is worth billions. But more importantly, and this is what you'll never understand, you tortured and tried to kill a human being. A pregnant woman. My wife. And even if she had truly been a homeless woman with nothing, that would still be unforgivable. Tears streamed down Eleanor's face, not tears of sadness, but tears of relief and vindication. Her father had left her something after all. He hadn't forgotten her. Marcus turned to Lily. And you, a 19-year-old girl with almost nothing, you risked everything to save someone you didn't even know. You're worth more than my entire family combined. The next week passed in a blur of activity. Elena spent 3 days in the hospital, where doctors carefully monitored her and the baby. Marcus never left her side, sleeping in a chair next to her bed and holding her hand through every test and examination. On the 4th day, Dr. Adebayo gave them wonderful news. The baby is strong again. You're both going to be fine. Eleanor and Marcus cried together, overwhelmed with relief and gratitude. Meanwhile, Marcus's lawyers were busy. They filed charges against Victoria, David, and Grace for assault, false imprisonment, and attempted murder. The evidence was overwhelming. Testimonies from housekeepers who had witnessed everything, medical reports documenting Eleanor's injuries, and even security camera footage that Marcus's family didn't know existed. The Chen family tried to use their wealth and connections to make the charges disappear, but Marcus was relentless. He held a press conference and told the entire story publicly, making it impossible for his family to hide. I'm speaking today because I want people to understand something important, Marcus said into the cameras. Wealth and status do not give anyone the right to abuse others. My family believed they were above consequences because of our money. They were wrong. The story went viral across Nigeria. People were shocked, outraged, and inspired by Marcus's courage to stand against his own family. But Marcus wasn't finished. He also hired investigators to look into what had happened to Elena's inheritance. Within 2 weeks, they had gathered enough evidence to prove that Richard Morrison's business partners had conspired to steal the company from his daughter. The legal battle was intense, but Eleanor had something the conspirators didn't have: the truth and a husband who would fight for her until his last breath. 6 months later, the judge's ruling came down. Elena Morrison Chen was declared the rightful owner of Morrison Global Industries. The conspirators were ordered to pay massive fines and face criminal charges for fraud. Elena gave birth to a healthy baby girl on a warm evening in June. They named her Grace Lily Chen, Grace after Lily's mother who had died, and Lily after the brave young woman who had saved both Eleanor and the baby. Marcus held his daughter for the first time and wept. "She almost never existed," he whispered. "We almost lost her." "But we didn't," Eleanor said, exhausted but radiant, "because kindness saved us. Your kindness to Lily 7 years ago came back to save our family." Lily, who had been waiting outside the delivery room, was invited in to meet baby Grace. When she saw the tiny infant, she burst into tears. "She's named after me?" Lily asked in disbelief. "Half of her name is yours," Marcus said, "because you're part of this family now. Not just because you saved my wife and daughter, but because you deserve to be part of a family that loves you." True to his word, Marcus and Eleanor legally adopted Lily as their daughter. They paid for her to attend the best university in Lagos, where she studied medicine because she wanted to help other people the way Mama Ngozi had helped Eleanor. As for Marcus's family, Victoria, David, and Grace were found guilty of their crimes. They received suspended sentences due to their age and lack of prior criminal records, but they were cut off from the family fortune completely. Marcus made it clear that they would never be welcome in his life or his children's lives unless they truly changed and showed genuine remorse. Victoria, humbled by losing everything she valued, her status, her money, and her son's love, eventually wrote Elena a letter. "I was wrong," the letter said simply. "I judged you without knowing you. I hurt you because I thought status and wealth were more important than human decency. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know that I'm ashamed of what I did. You are a better person than I ever was." Eleanor read the letter aloud to Marcus. "What do you think I should do?" Marcus took her hand. "That's your choice, my love. I'll support whatever you decide." Eleanor thought for a long time. Then she picked up a pen and wrote back, "I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because holding on to anger will only hurt me. However, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. You can meet your granddaughter when she's old enough to decide for herself if she wants a relationship with you. Until then, I hope you use this time to become the kind of person who truly deserves a second chance." 5 years later, Elena stood in the office that had once belonged to her father, the CEO's office of Morrison Global Industries. Under her leadership, the company had grown even larger, and she had transformed it into one of the most ethical corporations in Nigeria, famous for treating employees well and giving back to communities. Marcus worked beside her as COO, just as he had before, but now they were true partners in every sense. Little Grace was 5 years old and already showing signs of her mother's intelligence and her father's kindness. Lily, now 24, had graduated from medical school and was doing her residency at Lagos University Teaching Hospital. She still lived with Eleanor and Marcus in their new home, not because she had to, but because they were her family. One evening, as they all sat together for dinner, Grace asked a question that made everyone pause. "Mommy, why is Aunt Lily's name the same as mine?" Eleanor smiled and pulled her daughter onto her lap. "Let me tell you a story, sweetheart. It's a story about kindness and how it travels in circles." And she told Grace the whole story, about how Marcus had saved young Lily, how Lily had saved Eleanor, and how that act of kindness had saved baby Grace before she was even born. "So you see," Eleanor finished, "when you're kind to someone, you never know how far that kindness will travel. Your daddy's kindness to Aunt Lily came back to save your life. That's why we named you after her, to always remember that kindness is the most powerful thing in the world." Little Grace thought about this seriously. "Then I want to be kind too, Mommy. So maybe my kindness will save someone someday." Marcus, listening from across the table, felt his eyes fill with tears. This moment right here was why everything had been worth it. Every struggle, Every fight, every painful moment had led to this. A family built on love and kindness, and a daughter who already understood what truly mattered in life. Lily raised her glass. "I want to make a toast," she said, "to family, not the family you're born into, but the family you choose and the family that chooses you." They all clinked glasses, even little Grace with her cup of juice, and Eleanor looked around at the faces of the people she loved most in the world. She thought about the girl she had been 5 years ago, dying alone on a street in Yaba with no hope and no future. She thought about how close she had come to losing everything, her life, her baby, her dreams. But kindness had saved her, kindness from a young orphan who had nothing but gave everything. Kindness from a husband who had stood against his own family to fight for what was right. Kindness from an old woman named Mama Ngozi, who had helped deliver her baby with nothing but herbs and prayers. And now Eleanor had the chance to pass that kindness forward. Through her company, she had created programs to help homeless women, especially pregnant women, get off the streets and rebuild their lives. She had funded scholarships for orphans like Lily. She had built medical clinics in poor neighborhoods where people could get free healthcare. "You're thinking deeply," Marcus said, noticing her distant expression. Eleanor smiled and squeezed his hand. "I'm just thinking about how lucky we are, and how important it is to remember where we came from." "And where are we going?" Marcus asked with a smile. Eleanor looked at her daughter, at Lily. At the family they had built from ashes and pain and love. "Forward," she said simply, "always forward, always with kindness, and always together." If you loved this story, please subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that like button, and in the comments, tell us, what lesson did you learn from this story? Turn on notifications so you never miss our stories. Share this video with your friends and family. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next story.